Money doesn't buy happiness. I firmly believe that. But I also believe that money buys you options, and having the option is what breeds happiness. Having the option to take a trip, bless a family member, leave your job, start a family, and so much more. Money makes those things easier. Money allows you to have more and more options. So while I don't necessarily think that money buys happiness, I do think there are certain things that we can all spend our money on and feel genuinely fulfilled. In this episode, I'm sharing a few intentional spending ideas that will leave you feeling fulfilled and happy as can be. Now, let me add that you may not be in a position to spend your money on these things now, but definitely keep this episode in your back pocket for the future because great things are coming for you. I feel it. So let's talk about some intentional spending ideas that will leave you feeling fulfilled and happy to be spending your money. The first is donations. So me personally, anytime I read an article or see a story that just touches my spirit, I donate. Anytime something tragic happens in our world or country, I donate. Knowing that I am giving my money to someone in need leaves me feeling amazing. And donations can be recurring, they can be to the church, they can be one at a time. There's so many ways to go about donating. It doesn't even have to be money, right? I mean, you could donate your time, your belongings, things that other people need. But in terms of intentional spending, donating is a fantastic way to feel fulfilled, but also to make a difference in someone else's life. And it does not matter how much you donate. So please do not think that you need a lot of money to donate, but just the act of donating money or blessing someone else will leave you feeling personally fulfilled, especially if you do it on a regular basis. So if you're in a position to donate consistently, I highly recommend that you add donations to your budget. Create a new line item in your budget for donating, and I promise you, you will feel amazing for doing so. Okay, next intentional spending idea, travel. You probably knew this was coming, but when I spend my money on travel, I can honestly say it's the best money I've ever spent. Long ago, I had decided that traveling was important to me, and now I make it a point to budget and plan and save for travel regularly. I want you to check out episode 70, My Budget Non-Negotiables, to hear more about why traveling is so important and how I've kind of made it a non-negotiable in my budget. I'll be sure to link to it in the show notes. But even if I take a big trip like my last trip to Italy, I never blink an eye at the money spent. Now, please don't get me wrong. I am not wasting money or bawling out more than I should. And I think the fact that I plan and save and spend my money intentionally when traveling allows me to feel super fulfilled with spending money on trips. So if you love to travel, I think traveling can be a great way to spend your money and feel fulfilled, especially because those memories and experiences will stay with you for a lifetime compared to maybe a materialistic thing. If traveling is not for you, but you have never traveled anywhere, I would encourage you to bite the bullet, take a trip, see how you feel after, and then see if maybe traveling actually is for you. I know for me personally, the more I started to travel, the more I wanted to travel. So I think if you're kind of getting over that initial hurdle of traveling, once you do, you may be in a totally different mental space when it comes to spending your money on travel. All right, next intentional way to spend your money and feel fulfilled, self-care. So 2 things that never leave my budget, lash extensions and iced coffees. And I am totally trying to figure out how I can work regular massages into my budget as well, but we all got to start somewhere. Because I prioritize my body and my happiness and the way I feel about myself, I never feel bad about spending money on taking care of myself. I have identified what self-care looks like to me, and I spend my money on those things intentionally because I've already thought through them, but also in a way that makes me feel so happy, especially if those things are included in my budget. Now, I mentioned that I want to work regular massages into my budget. So that means right now they're not. So anytime I spend money on a massage, it would go into my fun spending category, which has a limit. But even if the massage takes up a majority of the category limit, I don't regret it. I don't feel bad about it because self-care is very important to me. And when I spend my money on self-care, I don't regret it. So once you've identified what self-care looks like for you, make sure to factor it into your budget and save for those things, and you'll be glad you did. So you don't have to start with large amounts of money for self-care, but it is definitely a spending area that will leave you feeling fulfilled and intentional for spending your money on those things. Next intentional spending idea to feel fulfilled, spending on your health. So let's be real. Healthy food costs more than unhealthy food. Working with a trainer isn't cheap. Having a gym membership is definitely a budget line item. And I think my point is there's no denying that it costs money to be healthy. You have to spend more money to be healthy, but it's money well spent. Even with the current rising costs of food, I am personally putting more money towards my grocery bill because I know that I can't cheap out in this area because the foods I consume directly impact my health. So with inflation and cost of living increases, sometimes you do have to spend more for things that, maybe you didn't have to in the past, but it is worth every penny because at least for me personally, I know that the food that's going into my body is going to have a direct impact on my health in a positive way. And one thing that I always say is health is wealth. What good is having a lot of money if you are not healthy, or if you end your life early because you didn't take care of your mind, your body, and your health, right? It doesn't mean much. So if you want to spend your money with intention and feel good about doing so, spending money on things that will benefit your health are usually a good idea. Now, one thing that is becoming increasingly popular is the preventative full body scans. They're upwards of, $3,000, but I'm strongly considering saving my money for that type of scan because that scan checks for even stage 1 cancer. So like it's early detection screening. So you can see is something happening. Even if you don't have symptoms, maybe this scan can find things that are wrong in your body and you just don't know. And had you just let it go over time, it would have gotten worse. So that is a huge expense. But for me personally, it's something that I'm strongly considering saving for so that I can do that. But it goes back to my whole point that spending money on your health is intentional and it leaves you feeling good. If I were to spend $3,000 on that scan, whether it found something or not, at least I know that there is something wrong or there isn't, number one. And number two, that was money well spent because it will benefit me in the future. Next intentional spending idea to leave you feeling fulfilled and happy is spending your money on hobbies you love. Me personally, I absolutely love going to the movies, so I consider it a hobby. Therefore, when I spend my money on tickets for me and sometimes even my boyfriend too, I don't feel an ounce of guilt. And I usually go 1 to 2, 3 times a month, so I'm always at the movie theater. Another hobby, if you will, that I love is going to the Dallas Cowboys games. I've actually been going to Dallas Cowboys games since 1997. Granted, I didn't pay for them back then. That was on my dad, but when my dad passed away and my brother and I decided to kind of keep that tradition going and keep purchasing season tickets, I didn't blink an eye. Like it was such a great experience with my dad and with friends in the past that it's something that I absolutely wanted to continue. And giving it that intentional thought and realizing how much joy it brings me makes the cost totally worth it. So when you're spending your money on things you love, you don't regret it. You may feel bad for spending your money on something if that cost wasn't in your budget, but you'll likely never regret the purchase, right? Because it's something that you love. So whatever hobbies you enjoy doing, make sure you budget for them so you can feel good all around about spending your money on them. But regardless, focusing on intentional spending with things that you love, hobbies that you love, places, events, things like that, you'll always feel good about that purchase, especially if it's in your budget. So this next intentional spending idea might be hit or miss. I think it could go either way for people, but it's starting a business. So I say it's hit or miss because starting a business is not for everyone. I fully recognize that. But if you do have a passion for starting a business, or if there's something that you do that you know you could make money from, or people always ask you for help in a certain area, you will feel extremely fulfilled when spending your money on things that will help your business start and grow. So in the early days of City Girl Savings, I would spend money on things that help put my business in front of more people. And I never felt bad about doing it. I will admit that I probably overdid it. So I probably spent more than I should or needed to, but I never regretted that purchase or those spending areas because I knew it was helping me grow my business and get my business out to more people. So again, if you're not interested in starting a business, there's nothing that you would be passionate about monetizing, anything like that, we can skip over this. But if you've always thought about starting a business, this could be a great intentional spending area for you because it's something that you've given thought to, and hopefully you can start putting money towards so that you can make that business a reality. Last intentional spending idea I have for you is randomly blessing others. So blessing others who need money more than you do will leave you feeling extremely fulfilled. And this doesn't just have to be people you know. It could be people that you don't know, but you know that your money would make such a difference in their lives. I will admit it's not always easy to part ways with your money, but helping someone in need truly makes it worth it. So if you're going to part ways with your money when you're helping someone in need, that's usually worth it. Blessing others who have less or are in need is such a great use for our money, right? And I think, when you've helped yourself first, I'm a firm believer in you can't help others until you help yourselves. When you are in a position to help others, even if it's on a small scale, especially if that's financially, it will truly leave you feeling very fulfilled. And giving money away you don't have does not help anyone. So I want to make that clear that if you're not in a position to bless others, doing so may help them, but it may hurt you in the process, which is not what we're about. So if you are going to bless other people, give it thought, be intentional with it, make sure it doesn't impact your situation negatively. That way you can feel all of the benefits of helping that person. So I listed a few things that help me feel fulfilled when spending my money, and hopefully it gives you some ideas to do the same. While intentionally spending your money on these things will leave you feeling more than fulfilled, I do want you to make sure that the money you're spending helps and doesn't hurt. Okay, so I know we spent some time with this on talking about helping others, randomly blessing others, but regardless, if you are spending money you don't have on anything, it is doing more harm than good. Spending money you don't have may leave you feeling happy and fulfilled in the moment, but I guarantee you that feeling will fade and you'll be left with guilt, which is not what we're about. So make sure that things that you spend money on are budgeted for and accounted for, and you've given thought to them. That way you can keep the fulfillment wave going. And I will say, if you are currently happy with the money you make, take some time to think about the different things you can intentionally spend your money on to feel proud and fulfilled. I gave you some ideas in this episode, but at the end of the day, you know what matters to you. You know what your values are. You know where you want to send your money to. So get intentional, really think through those things, and don't be afraid to send your money there. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're not in a position to spend for fulfillment, it's coming, okay? You may not be in that position yet, but one day you will be. Make sure you save this episode for inspiration and refer back to it whenever you're ready.